In a shocking and unprecedented twist, Caitlin Clark, the WNBA's brightest star, has signed a lifetime contract in Europe, effectively closing the door on her future in the WNBA forever. This game-changing decision has left the basketball world in utter disbelief. Caitlin Clark, a player who single-handedly carried the WNBA on her shoulders for years, has walked away, and what's worse, she's leaving a league that didn't just fail to recognize her as its true superstar, it actively mistreated her. This isn't just any story. This is the story of how one of the most dominant and beloved players in basketball history was forced to leave the league she helped define. But why did Clark, a player who could have been the face of the WNBA for decades, make this drastic decision? What led to this point? In this video, we're going to uncover the shocking reasons behind her departure, the things that have been swept under the rug by the mainstream media. You're about to hear about pay disparities, disrespect, and downright mistreatment that pushed Clark to leave the league and take her talents to Europe. Trust me, you won't hear this anywhere else. Stick with us and you'll find out why the WNBA may never be the same again after Caitlin Clark's exit. Welcome to Crazy Basketball, where we go deep into the stories the media won't tell. If you're ready to uncover the truth, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Hold on to your seats because what Caitlin Clark is about to reveal will leave the basketball world shook. Let's start with the hard truth. Caitlin Clark didn't leave the WNBA just because of bad calls or lack of respect on the court. It's deeper than that. This is about systemic issues and yes, racism within the league that the WNBA would rather ignore. Despite being the brightest star in women's basketball, breaking records, drawing massive crowds, and even making global waves, the WNBA failed her. She was a marketing machine, yet the league barely acknowledged her worth. Worse, the very people who could have stood by her in her most vulnerable moments chose silence, while players of color, like her, faced constant microaggressions and racist slurs. And what did the WNBA do? Nothing. To add fuel to the fire, Clark, one of the most marketable athletes in the world, was getting paid a fraction of what she was worth. Imagine being a global sensation, and yet your paycheck doesn't even cover basic living costs. Meanwhile, other players were making millions in endorsement deals. She was being undervalued and disrespected, and that's what pushed her to walk away. She said it herself, "I feel like I'm getting hammered. Opponents get away with things that others don't." This wasn't just about calls on the court. It was about how she, as a white woman, was being treated differently than her peers in the league. The WNBA couldn't see her value, and now she's walking away with all the leverage. You want to know the WNBA's biggest failure? They had Caitlin Clark, a once-in-a-generation player who could have elevated the entire league, and they didn't even know what to do with her. They didn't capitalize on her stardom. Clark brought in millions of viewers, boosted TV ratings, and was a marketing goldmine. But instead of making her the face of the league, they treated her like another player. This is a perfect example of how the WNBA failed to recognize the true value of its stars. While the NBA is making billions by promoting its players, the WNBA couldn't even secure a fair contract for its biggest name. Why? Because the league had no vision. They couldn't see that Caitlin Clark was bigger than the game. It was about creating a movement, but they missed it. Now Clark is heading overseas, and the WNBA will never recover from this mistake. Now let's talk about the disrespectful pay Clark received. $78,000. That's what Clark, one of the best players in the world, was making in the WNBA as a rookie. Are you kidding me? Meanwhile, NBA players who play similar roles make millions, even if they ride the bench. The WNBA was practically insulting her with their pay scale. And this wasn't just about money, it was about her dignity. They failed to recognize that Caitlin Clark was a global icon, someone who could have transcended sports and brought women's basketball to the next level, yet they treated her like she was replaceable. So when Europe came calling with the big bucks, a long-term contract, respect, and recognition, Clark didn't hesitate. The WNBA failed her, and now Europe is getting a once-in-a-lifetime talent. The WNBA couldn't even pay her what she was worth, and now it's too late. Now, here's the juicy part: the WNBA's reaction to Clark's decision to leave. Shock, disbelief, and utter denial. They thought Clark would stay loyal to a league that didn't have her back, but they couldn't have been more wrong. And here's the kicker. Other players are now watching Clark's bold move and are taking notes. They see the financial freedom she's found in Europe, the respect she's finally receiving, and the chance to actually thrive as a person, not just an athlete. It's not just Clark leaving, it's a game changer. This could set off a trend. If the WNBA doesn't wake up, more stars will leave. And when they do, the WNBA will be left in the dust, wondering what went wrong. Caitlin Clark was one of the most dominant players in the WNBA, but how was she treated? Terribly. From the lack of marketing to a salary that didn't even reflect her value, Clark was ignored and disrespected at every turn. But it wasn't just the money, it was the way she was treated on the court. Take the May 28th game against the Sparks. Flagrant fouls completely uncalled, but Clark, the league's brightest star, was left to fend for herself. When the refs had the chance to step in, they didn't. The WNBA didn't protect their most valuable player. They didn't protect her from the brutal fouls, the slights, or the blatant disregard for her value. And you have to wonder, if they didn't protect her, what were they really offering her? And then there's the eye poke incident. During a crucial playoff game, Clark was intentionally poked in the eye by Joni Carrington. This wasn't some accidental hit. It was deliberate, aimed at taking her out. And what did the referees do when they reviewed the play? Nothing. No penalty, no foul, just silence. This wasn't just a physical attack on Clark, it was an attack on her dignity, and the WNBA did nothing. The league didn't step in to protect their superstar, and for Clark, that was the final straw. She had had enough of a league that didn't respect her, didn't value her, and refused to protect her. The WNBA was failing in every possible way. With Caitlin Clark gone, the WNBA is facing a crisis. She wasn't just the face of the league, she was its heartbeat. The WNBA is now scrambling to fill the void left by their most marketable and valuable player. But here's the thing, the WNBA doesn't just lose Caitlin Clark, it loses hope. She was the bridge to the future of women's basketball, the hope that the WNBA could become something bigger than it ever was. Without her, the league risks losing more top-tier talent, and that's a future that's hard to come back from. Now, what's next for the WNBA? Will they change their ways, or will they continue to ignore the issues that led to Caitlin Clark's departure? Don't count on it. They'll put out some PR statements, maybe even promise a few changes, but they failed to fix the core problems. Caitlin Clark's exit should be a wake-up call, but will the WNBA actually act? Don't hold your breath. If the league doesn't start respecting its stars, paying them what they deserve, and protecting their talent, they're only gonna slide further into irrelevance. The ball's in their court. Will they step up, or will they watch as their stars walk away? At the end of the day, Caitlin Clark's decision to leave the WNBA was about much more than basketball. It was about respect. The WNBA failed to see her value, and now they're paying the price. With Clark gone, the league is facing a huge hole, and how they respond to this loss will determine their future. For more shocking stories and behind-the-scenes drama in the world of basketball, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Crazy Basketball, and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next.